Dr. Basem Naim, thank you so much for joining me. First of all, what is your assessment of the current situation? Or is Hamas surprised by the level of Israeli brutality against the civilian population of Gaza?
To be honest, we are not so surprised uh, because we have used that Israel in all the aggressions against Gaza in 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021. They were so savage, so brutal against our innocent civilian people. But what was surprising that this time they have they have got a clear license from the international community, mainly the United States and Western countries, to commit these crimes, to continue this slaughtering of innocent civilians. They have killed thousands of Palestinians. Most of them are children, women, civilians, medical care or healthcare workers, journalists, civil defense workers, live on air. All news media have seen this slaughtering machine, but all the time they have got a clear support, a clear license from the United States, from European countries to continue these massacres against our people.
What is the possibility of a ceasefire right now? What is Hamas's position on a ceasefire and negotiation for release of the Israeli hostages?
From the first moment, we have announced our position towards the captured people. We have said it clearly, all civilians, all foreigners who are in Gaza, we are ready to release them immediately if the situation is suitable to do it, because under heavy bombardment, we cannot move. These captured people are in different areas, different places, by different groups. We are not sure about who is still alive, who have been killed by Israeli bombardment. Al-Qassam Brigade, the spokesman, have said last week that maybe around 50 of them are killed under the Israeli bombardment. And therefore, we cannot be sure who is still alive or not. And you cannot keep bombarding Gaza Strip, cutting food, fuel, water, electricity, internet connections, banishing 2.3 million Palestinians, suffocating them. And then you are talking about ceasefire. I am sure this is one of the main conditions to open the borders, to allow all the humanitarian needs to get into Gaza to the people. I'm talking about basic needs, water, electricity, food, and suitable conditions to release them.
And what is Hamas seeking in negotiation for these captives?
Okay. We are talking about three levels. When it comes to the civilians and foreigners, we are ready to release them immediately. The only condition is to have a ceasefire to be able to do it, because it is very serious, it is very dangerous to move in the Gaza Strip. And they are again in different areas, in different places, by different people. The second level are the soldiers and the officers, I mean the Israeli soldiers. Sure, we are looking for releasing all our Palestinian prisoners. We are talking about more than 6,000 Palestinian prisoners. Some of them are now for more than 4 decades in Israeli jails. Nail al-Barout is now for around 43 years in Israeli jails, and dozens of Israeli Palestinians, freedom fighters, are in Israeli jails for decades, including women, children, minors, elderly, sick people. The other thing is to lift the siege on Gaza immediately and unconditionally, because it has converted Gaza, as everyone know, into the biggest open-air prison. It is like a concentration camp for 2.3 million Palestinians. To stop all the aggressions and the steps and policies in controlling the Al-Aqsa Mosque and converting Al-Aqsa Mosque into a temple. And based on international humanitarian law, this status quo have to be respected. This place is a pure Muslim property, and this has to be stopped immediately. But the final goal, or the third level, is to open a track, a political track, to reach a final solution for this political conflict. We cannot simply continue this vicious circle of resistance and crimes and massacres. We are Palestinians, people under occupation for 75 years. We have the right to defend ourselves. We have the right to resist, but also we have the right of independence, freedom, and dignity, and self-sovereignty, and right of return. What we are looking for is 100% in accordance with international law, with international humanitarian law. And this has to be ended, because we have said it many times. Any other alternative, by normalizing the relationship between Israel and Arabic countries, or by trying, or the attempts to expel as much as they can Palestinians out of the country, by suffocating Gaza Strip, by controlling the land in the West Bank and building more settlements, all these policies or these plans will not secure any party security or stability or safety or prosperity. Therefore, to bypass the Palestinians by normalization, or to go on other tracks, this will never lead to peace or stability here on the ground. The only solution is to give the Palestinians their rights of independence, freedom, and self-sovereignty.
We've seen Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu refer to Palestinians as Amalek, which is a biblical reference calling for genocide of Palestinians. So to me, it seems that the Israeli government is not interested in negotiations and sees only a military solution for its problem with Gaza. Do you believe that there is anybody in any position of power in the Israeli government that will seek a political solution and to negotiate, or is this they will only try to impose a military solution? And if they do that, do you think they can actually defeat Hamas as they say they seek to?
This is a very important question. First of all, I think what Netanyahu now publicly said, and before him, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, when they have talked about Netanyahu 2 months ago, have said we have to destroy the idea of a Palestinian state in the mind of Palestinians. Smotrich have said clearly, Palestinians have one of three choices: either to leave, or to be killed, or to live as slaves under the Israeli apartheid regime. I think this ideology is not new. This is the ideology from the day one, 1948. Maybe some of these Israeli leaders were smart and talk in two tongues, one in front of the UN in Europe and America, talking about peace and coexistence, but practically they are doing the same thing what is Netanyahu and Smotrich and Ben-Gvir doing today. You cannot find any difference between Netanyahu and Lapid and Shamir and Peres and Begin, the same ideology. Look, at the time was Yair Lapid was talking to the UN about two-state solution. He was brutally killing all our people in the West Bank. And by the way, you cannot find any Israeli party have in its charter clearly a clear political stance regarding a Palestinian state. Never. Even on the left side, on the extreme left side, you will never find anyone who is talking about an independent Palestinian state or a two independent states. Therefore, we should not be cheated by this or surprised by this development. This is the original ideology from day one. And most of the massacres committed in 1948 and later 1967 and later in Lebanon in 1982 and all the time, the same goal, how to expel as much as they can from Palestine, Palestinians, to face or to counter the demographic balance and to have control over the majority of the land. This is one. The second, look, this is a political problem. You cannot solve it by military tools. Palestinians have fought and resisted the occupation not only since 10 or 20 years of Hamas government. Palestinians are fighting and resisting the occupation since 100 years, before Hamas and before Fatah and before 48, at the time of the British mandate. This is a political problem. Palestinians, people under occupation who are looking for an independent state for their freedom and for the dignity. They are not looking for any other. It has nothing to do with Hamas or Fatah or other group. And now you have the vast majority of Israelis, either right or extreme right or most extreme right. The least group is the leftist. By the way, if you make an election today in Israel, most of these historical parties like Labour Party and other parties will fail in the elections. They will not appear in the panorama of the Israeli parties. Anyway, now this shift to the right and allowing these terrorists like Ben Gvir and Smotrich, who were considered terrorists on the Israeli society and terrorists in the American lists, they are considered terrorists. If they are talking on behalf of Israel today, they are talking on behalf of the vision of the society. Now their rhetoric is only religious rhetoric. They are converting this political conflict into a religious conflict, which means that in a few years, you will not have a problem between Palestinians and Israelis as a political problem. You will have a religious conflict between Jews and Muslims around the world. Because if you are only talking about the temple and the mosque and the Holy Land from both sides and chosen people from God and so on, it means you are not talking about politics. You are not talking about negotiations. You are talking about a pure religious conflict, which means that you are recruiting, that you will have not only a problem with 7 or 14 million Palestinians, you are recruiting 2 billion Muslims around the world to this conflict. It will be impossible to solve. This is the very dangerous point, that this conflict, Israel is today converting it into a pure religious conflict. Lastly, the point of Hamas. They have announced in 2008, in 2012, in 2014, in 2021, we are going to crush Hamas. We are going to eradicate Hamas. Okay. What they have achieved along the last 15, 16 years in all these confrontations, zero. You can remember in 2008 when they have raised three goals. At that time was Tzipi Livni and Ehud Barak and Olmert. Eradicate Hamas, crushing Hamas, stopping launching rockets from Gaza, and liberating the soldier Gilad Shalit. What they have achieved from the three? Nothing, zero. Hamas is representing, was elected in 2006 and representing around 60-70% of the population on the ground. Hamas have a political wing and armed wing. Hamas have a social wing. Hamas have universities and schools and sport activities. Hamas is a society representing vast majority. And we have said it many times. Okay, please live election and choose the leadership, and we are ready to accept the results. If they say we don't need Hamas, we are ready to leave the scene. I am sure before October 7th, maybe we have 50% people who are going to vote for us. If you ask Palestinians today, maybe 90-95% will vote to Hamas. Again, Hamas is not a house or a building to destroy it. Hamas is an ideology, is a political vision, Therefore, they will to control Gaza and the northern government. Okay, what about the southern part of Gaza Strip? What about the West Bank? What about the West Bank? What about Jerusalem and the diaspora? Millions of Palestinians around the world are supporting Hamas. Therefore, this is a mission impossible. They will never be able to achieve this goal.
I know you were recently in Russia meeting with the deputy foreign minister. What can you say about the diplomatic developments between Hamas and any other foreign governments?
Look, no one can ignore that Hamas is enjoying excellent relationship to a lot of countries around the world, including Russia, China, the whole Arabic and Islamic countries here, even Euro countries in Latin America, countries by the way, countries even in Europe. A lot of diplomats from European countries, they were meeting with us, okay, secretly, not publicly, but a lot of big countries in Europe, they were meeting with us. I think Hamas is not isolated. Hamas is getting a lot of support from a lot of countries around the world. We are enjoying very strong and good relationship to Russia, to China, to Turkey, to Qatar, to Iran, to Egypt. This is reflecting that Hamas is not only a small military wing in Gaza, in the northern part of Gaza Strip, to be crushed. This is Hamas today.
Are there any active negotiations going on? I know there's talk about mediation by Qatar, by Egypt. Are there any that you can speak of, or are the Israelis completely closed to negotiations right now?
There are negotiations, mainly about releasing the civilians. And we were very, what we call it, flexible and very cooperative with the mediators. But unfortunately, the Israeli side, on the cost of the life of these captured people, they are very reluctant. They are trying every now and then to buy more time to continue their bombardment and slaughtering machine. They are negotiating about very few small or very fine details about things like food and water and electricity. Again, from our side, we were very flexible, very mobile, but they are very reluctant. And I don't know if you or your audience know that in the case of the two Israeli ladies we have released, we have asked the mediators that we are ready to release them without any conditions. But at the beginning, the Israelis have refused to receive them. After repeated negotiations with the mediators, between the mediators and the Israelis, they have decided to receive them. And maybe you know that when these ladies spoke to the media publicly about how they have been treated by the people in Gaza, how they have cared about their health, their food, their conditions, they were very angry from these ladies, and they have asked all the media to withdraw this material from the media. Again, we are very flexible. The only thing is how to help our people to get their basic needs of food, water, electricity, fuel for the hospitals, for the civil defense, for the bakeries. This is what we are asking for, and I think it should not be a condition, because this is an obligation of any occupying power to care for the Palestinian, for the civilians, because Israel is the occupying power, and this is the obligation of the Israelis, regardless of their problem with Hamas, is to care for the civilians and their needs.
Is there any possibility that you're aware of a ceasefire coming in the next days, or when a ceasefire might happen?
I hope so, because any extra hour of these heavy and brutal bombardment means killing of dozens or hundreds of innocent civilians, children and women. Again, no one is safe in Gaza Strip, everywhere. We hope that we can reach something, and we are. I emphasize for the second or third time that we are very flexible to achieve a deal, but they are very reluctant, and they believe that they might be able to reach some of their goals, or to have something to get it back to their people, because until now, this government, I mean, Netanyahu, his defense minister, they have reached nothing, zero. Only have killed thousands of people, nothing else. They know if they come back to their own people after this war, what can they say? Because Netanyahu, you know that before this aggression, before the big failure on October 7th, he was nearly to be taken to the court for corruption and other issues. I think he is trying to buy more time, and he's committing more crimes to come back with something, some achievements. But until now, he achieved zero. Nothing. Militarily wise, nothing. At the level of refugee, captured people, nothing. Politically, nothing. He is not able to crush Hamas or the resistance. Until now, we have seen yesterday that they have tried to enter Gaza from different areas, and they have faced a very strong, heavy resistance.
The Israelis continue to talk about a ground invasion, though it seems the Israeli public is very divided on this. And as you just described, the limited so-called incursions that they've attempted have basically failed to this point. Do you think they are incapable of facing Al-Qassam in ground combat? Is that why they have held off on this? Do you think they're not confident in their forces? Is one question. And then secondly, what is Hamas's relationship with Hezbollah and Lebanon and with Syria, with Iran, in terms of possibility of escalation to a regional war in the case that there is no, in the case that this does escalate?
Regarding the first question, they have tried this ground invasion in all their confrontation or aggressions against Gaza. And maybe you know that in 2008, they have marched into Gaza and reached the middle of the city near Al-Quds Hospital in Tel El-Hawa neighborhood. But then they have faced a very strong, aggressive resistance, and therefore they have withdrawn. This was in 2008, where Hamas was much weaker than today. Second, okay, they can enter Gaza by ground invasion, but it will not be a journey. They will lose a lot. I mean, at the human level and at the capability level. Third, okay, if they control Gaza for 1 day, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, what's next? If they control the northern part of Gaza Strip for 2 years, what's next? What can they do with 2.3 million Palestinians? What they can do with the southern part of the Gaza Strip and its resistance? I think they are asking themselves all these questions. The internal situation in Israel is so fragmented and so divided that we observed this in everyday press conference of Netanyahu and his defense minister and others. It is clearly divided. It's fragmented. He tweeted or posted something about the responsibility of the failure of October 7th. Then he was obliged to admit that the security forces are responsible for this failure. We know that they are very fragmented. The international community is day after day increasing its pressure on this government, because no one can bear the responsibility for such a brutal massacres and genocide against the Gaza Strip. Again, they might try again and again partial ground invasion here or there, but they will fail and they will achieve nothing. Regarding the relationship, I have said it many times. This is a pure Palestinian resistance for pure Palestinian goals, independence, freedom, and dignity, and self-sovereignty. But at the same time, we are welcoming any support from any country, from any party. And the support could be at different levels, in different fields. We are getting some support at the political level from Russia. We are getting financial support from Qatar. We are getting humanitarian support from Egypt. We are getting military support and financial support from Iran with training. This is a pure Palestinian conflict. This is a pure Palestinian battle. These are pure Palestinian goals. But we are working. Why Israel is allowed to get support from the United States, from all European countries, these big superpowers at all levels, but we are not allowed to ask for support from anyone. We believe that even these demonstrations in all the streets in Europe, in Paris, in Berlin, in London, in New York, in Chicago, everywhere, this is a very strong support for our cause, for our just cause. But again, we are not denying that we have a good relationship to Iran, to Hezbollah. We have got from them a military training, military support. We cannot deny it, but not based on being leading an agenda on behalf of Hezbollah or an agenda on behalf of Iran. This is a pure Palestinian agenda for a pure Palestinian just cause and pure Palestinian goals of independence, freedom, and dignity.
I think we'll have to leave it there. Dr. Basem Naim, thank you so much for your time.